What's up, everybody? Don Coleman, Dustin Hawkins. We're back for episode 24 of the War Podcast. Hey, guys, we had a good episode today. I wasn't necessarily expecting the topic. We usually have a guest. We usually talk about some type of juicy drug history story. But Dustin came with a more relevant topic, I guess, to right now, what you do in your recovery. And he brought up literature. He brought up reading. He brought up how important it was for his change. I talked about how it tied to some of my change. And then it just kind of came into some other things, reflecting, reading, things you have to do to stay sober. Did I summarize that right, Dustin?
Yeah, it's just going to be a good little BS conversation between me and Don that I think you all will enjoy. Enjoy the show.
Yes, sir. All right, so today's kind of a surprise. I don't know, for those of you who play Pokemon or other games, you find an egg in something, right? But Dustin and I really haven't talked too much about what the topic today is going to be about. And so I'm as interested as you guys are to hear what Dustin has to say. Of course, I'm going to have my opinions, but this time I'll kind of turn it over to him, let him go. We can all learn together.
Well, I thought this would be kind of cool. I in our group at War, I kind of ran a little class and I talked a little bit about learning. And for me as a kid growing up, I always felt like I was stupid. I was never good at school, and I tried hard. I had those friends that just got easy. School was easy for, and I actually couldn't pass the ACT. You had to get a 19. I needed to get a 19 to be able to go play Division I college baseball. And I was getting recruited, by Utah, BYU, UNLV, all these different schools, Wichita State, and I couldn't pass the
big schools.
Yeah, big schools. I couldn't pass the ACT, so I got a tutor, and anyway, I ended up passing with a cumulative score from all the tests that I took. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I go into Wichita to college and had a hard time that first semester, like fell in a couple classes, and my coach calls me in to his office, and my coach at the time, Gene Stevens is his name. He's the winningest baseball coach in collegiate baseball history. Like very intimidating man, he's the man.
Commands authority.
Yeah, he's the man in Wichita. He's just
in college period.
Right.
Yeah.
And he calls me into his office. He says, "Hey, I want you to sit in the front row and get to know your teachers." And so and that's really all he said. And so to be honest, I didn't really listen, so and this is a true story. It's crazy, but I'm sitting in an English class in the back row, and I got my head down, and I'm just chilling, and he rolls into my class to check on me to see if I'm sitting in the front row. So he sees me in the back, he pulls me out of the class and lays it on me in the hall. Like, F word, F, you're going to be done. You're going to be off my team. You don't do what I say.
So you weren't in the front row?
No, I was in the back row with my head down, bro. So he pulls me out in the hall and he's yelling and, so anyway, I started doing it. I never felt comfortable raising my hand. I was one of those kids in class who was just scared and a little bit, never felt comfortable in a classroom, never felt comfortable taking tests. And so I started sitting on the front row and I started getting to know the teachers. I tried it. I was like, dude, I'm going to introduce myself to the teacher, tell him who I am. And I started raising my hand and staying after class and asking them questions, and it changed the game of college. And what it did, a few things, is it got me into the classes. So like an art of theater class. I remember this art of theater, like a theater class. bro, I was into theater,
Yeah.
because I started engaging with the teacher. I was going to plays and then I had all these professors coming to my games.
Yeah.
I just developed a friendship with these teachers, and I got into school, and school became easy. I was able to use my personality and just
And probably fun.
and it was just easy. Like school became a different thing.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I had a good time. I learned a lot in geology. I mean, I still graduated with I graduated with a 2.8. I mean, I was a C student. I
Right.
mean, I was a student athlete though. I mean, I missed a lot of
That's
schools.
common. Yeah.
It's a lot of, but 2.8, passed all my classes. C student basically, and then I've gone on to get my MBA and
Almost a B student though. I mean, 2.8's. It's almost a 3.
yeah.
Be serious.
Yeah, almost a B student.
But
yeah,
I'm saying
you're right.
2 is a C student.
Yeah.
You're almost a B. So that and being a college athlete, honestly, that's not bad.
Right.
And then obviously, like, keep going. You went on. You got your MBA.
Well, yeah, I just got my MBA, and I've really come to love to learn, and a lot of it. You can talk about this, but a lot of it, like in recovery, right? And so when I couldn't stop doing those pills, and then when I did pull them all out of my system, and I was unhappy. You know how you are. You don't know how to. I thought I was never going to have a happy thought again.
Right.
And I remember analyzing my thinking, and I remember thinking, like, how am I going to change the way that I think? How am I going to like put new like shit into my head to think differently, cuz I'm not thinking very good right now. And I became a reader. Right? Like I still remember it, and I still do it to this day, but I had this red couch in my house. And I decided that I was going to begin a study about Christ, because that was going to be my higher power. I talked about how, I got into the Mormon church through my addiction and this and that.
Right.
I decided I was going to start studying about Christ, and I had this couch, and I couldn't read. like reading was hard,
Right.
to me at that stage, because I had been doing high amounts of Adderall, and Adderall, when you're doing Adderall like that or speed like that, I couldn't even, if I wasn't high on speed, I didn't feel like I could do anything,
Right. So that's why it was hard. It wasn't that it was hard to retain the info. It was more hard to just get yourself to sit down and do
just
it.
sit down and read,
Right.
and also to listen to myself. I was just so, and to listen and pay attention. So, I started creating these reading experiences. So I had this red couch. I had my books there. I'd lay on the couch, picture like a Saturday or a weekend. I'd read on this couch, and then I would I start out like 5 minutes, and then I'd walk out my door and I'd go for a walk, and I would reflect and ponder on what I was reading. Like I'd try to retain it and think about Christ, and I'm sitting there a lot of times crying and like just trying to get scenery and trying to get some gratitude, and then I'd walk back in the house, dude, and I'd go back to that red couch, and I'd go and I'd read. I'd probably put another 10-minute session in.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk back out my door, back outside. I started creating these reading and walking experiences where I would read and then ponder about what I was reading.
I love how you say that, experiences.
I couldn't.
But it is, because it was more than just the reading. The walking was part of it. It sounds like
Yeah, the walking.
the reflecting.
Going and reflecting and thinking about what I was reading, and I was thinking about Christ, and a lot of it was like, can he really help me? Is this stuff real that I'm reading? Can it, so I was trying to develop a faith that in this higher power with Christ, that if it would work and if it could really change people, like I had heard that Christ could change people. You know what I'm saying? So, and I got into scripture study, and just, and I have to say, and I tell people this, like, I'd have to say the biggest thing that's changed me is when I became a reader,
Really?
Yeah. And nowadays it's gone. You think about these phones, right? I got all my books on my phone. So I got this Kindle, like when I was just chilling, waiting for you,
Right.
when I rolled up here, I just putting some in my head,
Yeah.
on my phone. I don't got to have a book. You know, I got my Kindle, I'm chilling, I'm reading, you know, and then on the way here, I'm listening to an audiobook.
Okay, so audiobooks count.
Oh yeah. Audiobooks, you can get, you know, killing audiobooks, you know. And I guess what I want to tell people.
What about podcasts?
Podcasts, same thing. I go hard on the podcast.
Just taking info in.
Just and you know, the reading and the audiobooks. I mean, I'm a self-help guy. Like I can't get out of the self-help because I need help. You know, but like I can't really do fiction. You know, it's more. But a couple that I just had got done listening to. I listened to this one. Excuse my language, but it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Right.
And it sounds kind of different with that word in there, but that was a good read for me and a good listen.
What'd you get from it?
Just
besides the obvious, learning how to not give a fuck.
Yeah,
or not learning how not to, but the art of it, right?
Yeah, it just taught me to let things go, you know, and that's what I have a problem with, especially is worrying what people think.
Right.
You know, I'm always seem like I'm wanting to please and want people to like me.
That love, approval, and respect.
Yeah, I need people to validate me and stuff like that, and when I feel like people don't like me or I'm worried about stuff like, you know, and so that book kind of helped with that. You know, another one that I listened to was called You Can Heal Your Life. And that one has helped me a lot, you know, and we all struggle.
You read You Are a Badass? You're a Badass?
No.
Oh, it's a good one.
Really?
Yeah.
Similar self-help?
Probably, yeah, definitely. It's very good. Got it from Wasatch. I'll need to get you a copy.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, reading, man. And I talk a lot about like tying them in with your experiences. So in war, the lifestyle I promote people live, you know, jogging experiences, hiking, that's all the spiritual work, right? Jogging, 60-minute walking experience. You can, you know, I can't tell you how many times I have hiked these trails over here in Ogden. On the way up, I'm listening to music, a good playlist that I made, and I'm going hard, and I get my blood boiling to where it's a good pace, and I'm getting my lungs going, and my legs are burning, and I go unbroken all the way to the top of a peak, right? Maybe 45-minute experience. I got a pack on, a little pack with some food in it and water. I'm ready for that. And then I get to the top, and I take everything off. I eat a little bit of my food. I capture the scenery, and I'm by myself, right? You have to be able to do these experiences on your own. And I'm working on prayer and gratitude at the top, and then I sit down and I read for 45 minutes up in this majestic peak,
right?
To read and work on that side, that brain strength training, you know, with the reading, and then I might take a nap, you know what I'm saying, and chilling up there, and then slowly walk my way back down, listening to an audiobook, and maybe music, and kind of daydreaming about positive things. Like, you know, I think, would you say that that daydreaming would be, like I always heard as a kid that daydreaming would be bad.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like you shouldn't
especially
daydream.
in school, right?
Yeah.
Especially in school, like when you're not paying attention. But daydream, you mean like having higher aspirations, having goals?
Yeah, like for me, like I'll get into these things where I get my, I'm up in these mountains, and I've got my heart rate up, and I'm breathing heavy, and I get the endorphins going. And then I let some music lift me to like seeing myself in a positive light. Or for so long I've been seeing myself in a shitty way.
Right.
From addiction. But now I'm up here, and this music's got me, and I captured this scenery over here, and I'm on top. You know, like, and I'm seeing myself like, damn, dude, I could do something. I could like, I don't just gotta hang on in recovery. Like, you know, maybe I want to be an entrepreneur. You know, maybe I want to do something with my life. Maybe I want to go back to school. Maybe I want to, you know, and
dude, I think part of the reason I used was almost to kill my daydreams. You know what I mean? Almost in a sense, like,
yeah,
you start because daydreams are a good thing, but once you start completely destroying your life, then you're almost like you almost don't really see the reason to keep going. And then when you have these daydreams, which are natural and are good, but they just remind you of what you're not doing with your life and how you have more to accomplish. And then I almost was using to stop those, to silence them.
Quiet your head down.
Yeah, because it's just a reminder of like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
You know?
And when, you know, it's one thing to daydream and have them not linked to goals. I mean, but it's another thing to act on what you're thinking about, you know, like, and for me, like, I know my dreams, whatever they're going to be and wherever I'm supposed to head in this life, as far as, you know, professionally, with my family, the goals that I have, my financial goals, my spiritual goals, all those things in time will work out if I stay sober.
Absolutely.
And I know that will, and do the right thing and be a good man.
Yeah.
You know, I know that those things will work out.
Absolutely.
But the problem is we think we want our hurried up when it's just one day. It's one day at a time to get to those goals.
Right.
You know.
But you have to first set them, and you think you need the daydream to set it. You know, a lot of people believe in The Secret, and, you know, in that whole, you know, manifesting by speaking things into reality, making them real first.
Right.
You know, you have to daydream to even start a goal. You know, just what you were saying, I'm just trying to take it back to the reading in the very beginning, because I had an interesting experience in college. I always had the capability of being, you know, I also have my MBA, you know, also ended up teaching MBA in the MBA program, and ended up doing my last 2 years of college last 3 years of college, I think, with almost 4.0s.
Right.
But my first year of college, I was not reading anything, right? And I was in an English class, and I was daydreaming on being an attorney, like daydreaming on these things that I wanted to do, but I wanted them fast, right? I wanted the shortcut, so I wasn't doing the work. And so I literally, you know, I remember that there was this report we had to do, and I didn't, it almost ties in the love, approval, respect piece too, but I didn't do the report, and I got asked a question, right? The teacher was going around asking questions about the book, and instead of me saying like I didn't read it, you know what I mean? I basically just took an educated guess on what the right answer would be, and it was so off. And I remember this little like geeky kid that was sitting next to me like snickered and was like, whatever, like this dude's ever going to be able to accomplish anything. And I remember that exact moment. I remember just like looking at him, almost like I wanted to fight him, but I didn't, but I wanted to in a way. But I was like, the only way I'm going to change this kid's opinion of me, the only way I'm ever going to get this person to see anything, which was really, I wanted to prove to myself, but I was really like, the only way this kid's I'm going to get any change of opinion is if I beat this kid and show him that I can do way better than him, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember at that point, I ended up actually doing bad on my next paper, going and talking to my teacher, getting to know her, having her help me on my paper. Then I started reading everything, doing all the homework, doing everything you're supposed to do. And I did well. Like, I got a 32 on the ACT. Like, I did really well. You know what I mean? But I didn't. But I didn't apply it. I didn't apply it though. You know what my point is? I didn't apply it until someone kind of gave me that kick of like, dude, you know, it was almost a challenge. And then I ended up doing extremely well from then on out by having to read. And I don't read as much as I should have. When I ended up getting in trouble and I had to sit down for a while in the cement cage, you know, then I read a lot there. That helped.
That's what I love about jail, bro. People, if anyone who goes into jail, I'm like,
come out an avid reader.
He's a reader.
He's a reader. It's so true, man. It's so true. And then after that, this kind of goes into another piece of what you were saying about learning to pause and reflect, right? And how it ties into addiction. So when I ended up going to Odyssey House and was there, obviously for a couple years almost, one of the things that I was doing well for a while, and then all of a sudden I just hit this dead spot, man. Like I could go into the details, but it's hard to. It's a long story. It'd be probably better for another podcast, but it's a good story.
Right.
Odyssey stories would be great for the podcast because they're just so different the way treatment's done. But essentially, one of the things I had to learn was, Dawn, you are reactive. You need to learn how to be reflective. So when I did that first interview with you guys, that assignment that I had where I listed 3 things that made me feel better about myself at the end of the day, 3 things that made me feel worse about myself, and then kind of the common themes I learned.
Right.
That was something that I was given to me from one of my therapists there. And his name was Glenn. And he was actually running the program at the time, was a solid guy. But my point is, I learned from that point, almost again, like I learned in school, that I had to sit and reflect on what's going on. Learn how am I really doing? What am I really thinking? And then what do I really want? Almost goes to daydreaming, right? And then how am I going to manifest that? How am I going to create that? And so that was one of the biggest things I learned in recovery, was learning not to, because when we're using, man, we're reacting, right?
Right.
I mean, like, dude, if you're having just a bad day and you have some Adderalls or you have some Oxys in your pocket, and you have a bad day, something bad happens to you, you wreck your car accidentally, or you bump it while you're parking, what's the first thing you're going to do when you go back up to your place?
Right.
What is it?
You know, take them.
Absolutely. First thing. You know, if you can,
even if something bad doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's say something good happens.
Yeah.
Let's say you find an extra $100 in your pocket that you didn't know was there, and you also have drugs in your pocket. Hey, I'm going to celebrate this. I can buy more now, so I'm just going to take these because I can buy more now.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess it was I kind of got distracted by what I'm saying about the reading part. I don't read as much, but I spend a lot of my time listening to podcasts.
Right.
I do listen to audiobooks. I'm listening to one now. But it does help a lot to be able, it gets you outside of your world, and it gets you into I don't read as much scripture, Dustin, and
right.
and I know that's an important piece for me. I guess it's hard for me to, I need to make maybe an experience where I can find it more entertaining.
Yeah.
But just like school, when you apply yourself to something seems more interesting. You just have to apply yourself first.
Yeah, I got into scripture study, studying the Bible, studying the Book of Mormon, and it's a different read. You might spend 20 minutes on 3 verses. You know what I'm saying? Where you're just kind of thinking about them and then cross-referencing back and looking at other areas of it where, so that's what I've learned about scripture study. But the thing about reading is if anyone's listening and you really want to get into reading, like you have to consciously make time for it.
Right.
So it's like me the other night, dude. I mean, I love movies, you know what I mean? And I'll get into Netflix but if I look at my day and I haven't done my spiritual work, I consider it spiritual work, reading, right? And it's a huge piece of my.
You mean all spiritual work, or just
No, just reading is one of my biggest pieces for spiritual work, right? Like for me and what I promote in WAR, like. So if I look at my day and I haven't gotten my reading in, which I need to get in, then I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to go read for 30 minutes out on my back porch, and then I'm going to get into this movie.
Right.
I got to put that over it, or I'm going to go for a walk with my kid on my back, listening to an audiobook, or, I listen to a lot of conference talks and stuff like that from the church that they put out. But then it's like, I got that spiritual work in for the day of my reading. And most of my reading gets done, I wake up at 5 and from about 5:30 to 7:30, I'll read and drive around and listen to music and kind of get ready for my day, but a lot of it's reading and then writing.
Right.
And then I can start at 7:30. I'll start getting ready to work.
The writing's the reflective piece.
Yeah, the reflecting but that's my little spiritual work that and where it's gone. I used to be able to do more of it, but now the way my schedule's gone, and everybody's schedule's different. But it's like putting that little time in, and that's why I love the mornings. I mean, it's a pain in the ass getting up. But I've almost just like, it's my time. I mean, I got kids, and It's just like no one's awake, and I can just like no one's expecting much out of me from 5 to 8. Like no one's hitting me up. No one's texting me.
It's silent.
And so I can just sit there and just be me, do me for 3 hours. I talked to one of my buddies who actually I worked with years ago when I first started WAR. Like he was like third or fourth client, and he ran a company. He runs a big company, big plumbing company, and very successful company. He's like the owner of it and CEO of it. And he came to work with me because he struggled with anxiety and drinking. But so I ran into him about a year and a half ago, and he looked amazing. Like I hadn't seen him in a while. Like he's all nutritioned out and looked healthy and fit. And I said, dude, what have you been doing?
Right.
And he went and he worked with a business coach, like literally he was to a point where he needed a mentor. He was so busy. He wasn't managing his time well.
Right.
So he went to like one of these business coaches back in Texas, and was working with him and helping him lay out his schedule. And he wakes up every day at 4 a.m., and then he has from 4 to 8 where he does like all his reading and all his own self-care in the morning. And then he goes to work, and then, you know, he has certain times of the day where his office doors open, where he can talk with employees and people coming in, need to answer questions. And then there's certain parts of the day where his door's closed and he's doing all his emails and hustling.
Right.
He talked about his exercise. It was crazy. He's like, so how much you exercise? And he's like, I exercise about 4 times a month is all. He says, but I eat way healthy, and he had it down to a science, bro, like of how his schedule was going to go every day.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. And anyway, it was funny because I learned a lot from him that day about that morning piece. You know, like I haven't gotten to 4 a.m. yet. I want to get there. It's taken me a while to get to 5.
How long has it taken?
I mean, I've been at 6 for a while. Then I went to 5:30.
So what time do you go to bed?
About 11.
So you're not getting many hours of sleep, man.
No, 10. I go to 10:30, 11.
Why aren't you?
I haven't been.
At 9 and getting 8 hours.
Well, it's just I got kids. You know what I'm saying? And we're up. I'm picking. My daughter's 11. She's all over the place. I could pick. You know.
You're in optimal health, though. I mean, I think that allows you to do that. But man, you know, they always say that 8 hours is so super critical.
I know, and I've never been able to get 8 hours, even if I can sleep in. I just don't sleep like that.
You don't take any sleep aid?
Yeah, I do. I do take a little. I take a trazodone.
Right.
A little bit, just a little piece of a trazodone, but which sucks. That's a whole nother story.
I don't like that one, but
no.
I mean, gosh, man, I just think like you need the sleep, man.
Yeah, and I do naps. You know what I mean? I nap throughout the day.
Yeah, that's good.
I go park and do a reading experience. Usually I park somewhere under a tree and take a nap in my car. Or go pass out at a park.
Which is good. You need that.
But you know what I mean? But it's taken me a while, and it's staying in tune with that nutrition and that exercise and having that balance that I think.
So what would you recommend? I mean, how do you coach do you coach your squad on reading? Was part of the WAR lifestyle?
Oh yeah, like this whole thing. That's why I wanted to put this out, is just so if anybody misses or anybody wants to know and isn't able to get into WAR or needs treatment, like here it is. Like that's what I did. I started with reading in my red couch.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like it was an endurance, but I remember having this prayer with God when I was first getting into it, trying to be diligent at everything that I was doing, you know, because I was kind of on the fence. I was like, man, I might be able to keep this shit up, you know, but this is pretty hard.
Right.
So I remember having this prayer, and I asked God, I just said, can you help me to keep this up? Because I know it's good. But I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to keep up this routine of reading and exercise, and, you know, and I remember getting off my knees, dude, and just being like, hell yeah, I'm going to keep this up.
Yeah.
You know, like, anyway, and I stay on it. I don't miss my gym piece. You know, I stay on my reading. My reading goes a little down depending on how busy I am, but that diligent effort to just, I can stay sober and it's fun. It's a fun lifestyle.
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
Well, and anyone knows with AA, reading is a critical part. You know, it's the only 100 and some odd pages of the big book. The 100 and some first pages is the whole book. The rest is just experiences, which are awesome to read.
Right.
I mean, that's some of the best reading. You know, there was actually a guy in a meeting the other day, in our men's meeting, that said that, and he's in like the finance business, right? He's in finance, and they asked him. They said, you know, they asked everyone in the executive team basically to list their three most effective books that have helped them do what they're doing in their work, right?
Right.
You would think it'd be this finance book, this executive book, this, that. His first one was the big book, and he listed that. You know what I mean? As just the biggest one to help him. He said that reading's been the most amazing reading that he's ever done. And I'm not trying to just push the big book, but I'm saying that if you believe in AA, which most do, most recovering addicts, that's their approach. I think, you know, then if you're working that program, you have to read.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about it that way.
No, that big book's a powerful book.
It is.
You know, I listen to that book a lot too, like, because you can just sit there and
like the stories.
I listened to those first hundreds. I've listened to those first 163 pages or whatever.
Something like that, yeah. 164, I think.
I've over and over. I mean, just pick pieces of it and on my experiences and just, you know, that book, dude, it is for anybody, you know, as far as like, they're just principles that could help anybody that come out of that big book.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a good way to be.
Period.
Yeah, it's just good the way they tell you. And
yeah, period.
And so, like, I'm really thankful for the big book. A lot of people, I think, where recovery's going nowadays, it seems to me that people are pushing that book aside. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
Ooh, gosh, pushing it aside. Explain that more. What you mean?
Well,
you mean like people are saying,
well, they're
forget
just
AA?
they're trying to say that it's old school. I heard a dude say it was old school, and I thought, man, those principles that are taught in that book, dude,
See,
don't go away. Yeah,
those
they're
are
timeless.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'd love to have been there to hear what he was saying and what he meant. It's old school. Yeah, sure, it's old school. It's been around forever. You know, it's been around, you know, since mid last century. You know,
Right.
But it's, you know, sure, there are new approaches and new ways to recover. I mean, you know, do you mandate that they do AA? Or can they do rational recovery?
Yeah, no, they can do it all. I'm not
Right.
I'm not a 12-step program.
Gotcha.
you
Okay,
know?
so see what I'm saying? So I guess in that sense, like, war would be considered more modern,
Right.
right? Or rational recovery would be considered more modern, or a smart recovery might be considered more modern, or straight up replacement therapy. Suboxone might be considered more modern.
Right.
You know, methadone even might be considered more modern, even though that's been around for decades.
Right.
You know, so are people pushing it aside? I don't know. It's every time someone speaks, it's their projection of their reality, right?
Right.
So in his reality, it's old school. Probably tells you he doesn't use it much. You know, that's not a dig. It's not anything. It's just, it's not his way. If he's sober and he's killing life, then great. I don't know if people are pushing it. I think people do push it away. Even people in AA push it away. So many people just like the meetings. Forget the big buck, forget a sponsor, forget any of that garbage is what people will say, right? So is it being pushed away? Maybe, but you can't push those principles away. I don't know how you stay sober without living those principles. I don't know how you stay sober without living those principles.
Yeah, like it's just too much good stuff, and you know, I believe it was an inspired book. I mean, I agree on a spiritual level. I really do. I mean, how those steps were put together, and
I agree.
I just feel like it's a book that, I mean, you know more about this than I do, but I I remember hearing. I mean, back in the day when people were alcoholics, they just thought they were crazy.
Right.
They were like, dude, there
Yeah,
was
it
no
was- it
treatment.
was-
They
it-
just thought they
right.
were nuts.
Right. And it shows that in the book with like the letter from the doctor, right?
Right.
Yeah, they literally thought they would go to an asylum.
Right. And so then they start putting together these little circle meetings and talk to people about cleaning up their side of the street and
Yes.
fixing some relationships and just beautiful little principles.
Right.
And now you got people giving people hope,
Yeah, and you got a bunch of sober people doing it.
So-
And so it's and from those circle meetings came writing, which they wrote the book from, right? So it's interesting. Literature is an important part of recovery. I would agree with you. What would your challenge be for people that are listening to this when it comes to reading?
Yeah, I would just say let's start with a book and there's a difference between picking up Harry Potter and the big book.
Yes,
You know what I'm
big
saying?
difference.
And I'm not saying get rid of the fun Harry Potter and fictional stuff.
Right.
I'm saying have a little of that going, but
Have an
but
arsenal.
but have more of right now. If you're twisted up in your head,
Right.
have more of this going.
Right.
And that's at least for me. But all reading would be good, And so I think if you just want to start, like there's some good books, like the ones that I first got on, Lone Survivor. They made that movie.
Yep.
Dude, that's
Marcus Luttrell.
that's a book.
Yeah.
Another one is Fearless. Fearless is about it's about a Navy SEAL who was a drug addict, meth addict, and he ends
Ooh,
up.
I heard about this one.
Dude, I recommend that read.
I think Joe that gave this one to Frank.
Yeah, that's a good book.
Yeah. So he was a meth addict after being a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, and it just shows his battle with it all, like
Yeah,
the
you're
whole
like talking about the
time.
most primo dude, like what everyone wants to be, right? And it's
And
like this
he
dude
ended,
still struggling.
he got into Christ, and it's a good book. You can listen to that one. I listened to that one.
So okay, Lone Survivor, Fearless.
Lone Survivor, Fearless. I read The Alchemist a long time ago. Have you heard of that book? That's a good
No,
one.
I haven't.
Alchemist, kind of a unique book. It's a national bestseller. I mean, it's been
Oh, of course
around
I've heard
a long time.
Alchemist. Yeah, I haven't read it though.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, of course I've heard of that.
That's a good read. And then just another thing I would say is don't be afraid to read stuff, like don't be I got into C.S. Lewis, all his Mere Christianity, and there's another one. One of my favorite books is called The Screwtape Letters that C.S. Lewis wrote. And you know who C.S. Lewis was,
Yeah, of
don't
course, yeah.
you? I mean, he wrote The
He
Lion,
did,
the Witch,
Lion, the Witch, and the
Wardrobe, and the Narnia stuff, and
right. Chronicles of Narnia.
but
yeah.
he was a Christian writer. He wrote that Mere Christianity book, which
I remember that.
that book's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so there's some books like that about Christ, but those ones are there's not linked to any religion,
Right.
so it's a little easier to. So
Well, and here's I guess here's my small challenge that this is what I have to do for myself every time I read. If I'm not into it, and especially if it's some type of piece of fiction or some type of story like something by C.S. Lewis or even a Lone Survivor or whatever, if I'm having a hard time getting into it, dude, I tell myself, wait, just like kind of like I did with that kid in the class, like wait, if other people are reading this and enjoying it, there's something in here that's enjoyable. Let me just challenge myself to try to enjoy it. Like, let me read it and actually see what's going on. Like, let me focus on it. Let me challenge myself to understand what's happening on this page, then the next page, the next page. Next thing you know, you're swamped in it, and you just go.
right.
But don't give something up just because you're not into it instantly. We're so used to instant gratification, social media, YouTube, whatever. We're so used to that. Give yourself time with the book. I agree. I like the topic.
and it feels good to finish one.
It's an accomplishment.
Like in my
Throw it on your shelf. Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's just like a good look, I got that one done, and then I give myself 2 days to find another one.
Right.
So you finish one, and then give yourself 2 days to find another one, and then work your way through it. And same thing with the Audible, with the audiobooks,
Right.
I mean, the audiobooks, you can kill a 5-hour book, dude, in seriously 4 days.
Absolutely.
Putting 30 30, 45 minutes into it a day.
Yeah, just in your commute, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll end up starting listening to it just on your bed. You have that download the app. It's easy.
Yeah.
It picks up where you left off every time you open it.
Right. So use technology, use what we got, and, you know, get off that Facebook so much. Stop swiping right.
Yeah. Especially if you're using friends, delete those friends.
Right.
Unfriend them.
Right.
Man, they're going to be posting stuff all the time. Hey, I'm looking for this. Hey, I got this. If anyone needs anything, get rid of that garbage.
Yeah.
That's not serving you.
You'll get a lot more from.
You want to flirt with it, but it's stupid.
Yeah, you'll get a lot more from an ebook than you will Facebook.
Absolutely. I
You
like
know.
that.
And there's a time and place for the social media, but in early recovery, I don't think there is.
I agree.
You want to get away from the comparing bullshit.
Absolutely.
You know.
Get off of it. It's ridiculous.
So, well, why don't leave us comments? We'd like to hear about what you're reading.
Yeah.
You can email me at Dustin@Workout Addiction Recovery. And then our Instagram handles @WarAddiction. I'm gonna start, you know, posting some of my experiences or war experiences on there, and I'll even post some stuff of books that I'm reading or have read or people are read or Don's reading or whatever. And we'll try to create a little community where you guys can go there as a resource and kind of tie it into the show.
Good call. I like that idea.
That's where we're going with that. So
leave us comments, like, subscribe. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.